Hey guys, it's Alphonsus. Before I begin, I want to make a huge shout out to all the frontline workers out there who are doing an amazing job right now. So, thank you. This video is a follow-up of my first video that I did on COVID-19. Specifically, I'll talk about my home country, Trinidad and Tobago. I'll present some statistics that have been given to us, some interpretation, and finally some limitations of the whole thing. All of what I'm saying is based on publicly available data, which anybody could get from the official source. I encourage you to do your own research if you can. To be clear, data collection for this video stopped on the night of 27th April, and this video is being filmed on the 28th of April. The validity of this video could change over time, so please pay close attention to those dates and limits. If you like this video, I'll really appreciate it if you could like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks to the Ministry of Health, we've had daily notices, sometimes up to 3 times a day, of what's going on in the country when it comes to COVID-19. Before I get into the stats though, I want to bring up one of the updates that they bring out so that we could do a review of the terms that they use. Number of samples submitted to CAFA, that is the Caribbean Public Health Agency. This seems self-explanatory, but let me just clarify. CAFA has, to date, the only lab that is certified to test samples for COVID-19. It's important to note for later. Number of unique patient tests completed. This reflects the number of people who have been tested to date. That's it. Number of repeated tests. Due to reasons such as not enough sample taken or it not fitting the criteria for testing by CAFA, a test may need to be repeated. That's that number. Number of samples which have tested positive. While that may be self-explanatory, I want to add that these are unique numbers, which is to say that this is representative of the number of people we know for sure has been diagnosed with COVID-19. Number of deaths. No explanation needed, but let's take a moment to remember those people. They were mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, and more importantly, if they're aunts, they could have been yours. Number of persons discharged. This is the number of people who were positive but aren't anymore and have fully recovered. There are some other terms in the update, and thankfully they've been clarified in the same update. So I encourage you to do your research and find out what they are. We're not done though. There's another statistic that we could technically do, and that is the number of active cases. The number of active cases isn't a new thing. Actually, the formula in this case is quite simple. Number of active cases is equal to the number of positive cases minus the number of deaths and the number of recoveries. That's to say, the number of positive cases that are actively being treated. This number is important because once upon a time, this was trending. We know what it means by now. It's a simple illustration highlighting the need to slow the spread of the disease, therefore making sure that our health system would have the capacity to deal with the pandemic. To be in excess of that capacity could suggest untreated people and more unnecessary deaths. Nobody wants that. Hence, things like the stay-at-home mandate. Okay, back to active cases. By tracking the number of people who have COVID-19 actively, we could find out how well we are doing in the management of the pandemic on a whole. This is important for seeing if we are flattening the curve. Therefore, I present to you a graph of the number of active cases in Trinidad and Tobago over time. It gives you a little idea of how the trajectory is roughly going. Emphasis on roughly. The number of active cases increased, then reached a peak, and now it's on the decline. Some of you may be quick to point out, Alphonsus, it appears we have more than enough capacity to deal with COVID-19. We're not only flattening it, we're eliminating it. So let's go on and get back to our normal lifestyle already. How we move forward is exactly the controversy of today, isn't it? It's a little tricky. Let's go back to the graph of active cases. The x-axis, or down here, are the dates, while the y-axis, or up here, is the number of cases. TNT hasn't exactly been staying still. For context, on March 12th, when the first case was confirmed, GORTT, that's the government, said that only emergency travel was authorized. They also asked the public to limit themselves to essential or emergency travel. On March 17th, TNT closed their borders to everyone who wasn't a national. Exemptions could and have been granted. Schools and bars, however, were closed, and in-house dining was restricted. On March 22nd, TNT closed all borders, even to nationals. This is most likely in no small way due to the spike that happened after taking in people from a cruise. On March 29th, stay-at-home measures commenced. That is, for everyone except essential staff. From then, adjustments have been made, but a very legitimate argument could be made that the general compliance and enforcement efforts are curbing the spread of the virus. That makes sense. If you limit movement, you limit the spread. We saw rises after March 29th. Based on how the virus works, we should have expected that. But after a while, we started seeing a decrease in the number of active cases. We don't have to stop there. Based on more information from the Ministry of Health, we can make some other interesting graphs. Like this one, for the total number of deaths over time. It appears to be slowing down, for now. That is to say, that there has been a sharp increase, but then that slowed down. Again, a huge shout out to our frontline workers for doing an amazing job. Then there's this graph of the total number of recoveries over time. As we could see, roughly over the last 2 weeks, these numbers have been increasing. It's great news. We have less deaths, more recoveries, and overall the number of active cases are currently on the decline. But, and there always is a but, isn't there? We shouldn't be rushing to try to open the economy, because you see, it could go very badly very quickly if we do things at the wrong time. We have a couple caveats to address, and this is where I start to talk about the limitations of the data. Again, with the same publicly available data, we can make a graph like this. A graph of the total number of submitted tests to CAFA. But what's wrong with it? It looks good, right? It's increasing. Well, let's take a look at another graph, which is the number of tests that have been submitted to CAFA daily. For most of the time, testing was limited and relatively small. It's possible that due to limited testing, we may not have the best picture of what the situation is like at a wide-scale population level. So we need to increase daily testing. The government knows this, and as of recent, they've been making efforts to do just that. Actually, testing could be the topic of another video. Comment below if that's something you're interested in. That's why another limitation of the video is the variation of data. For example, the demographics of cases has changed from one date to the other. There's more information on this and other discrepancies in the data put out by the government in an article done by the Trinidad and Tobago Weather Center. Check out the link in the description below for more information. These and other limitations underline the need to be very, very cautious. And the whole situation is just sensitive. If we take the wrong steps, or even if we take the right steps at the wrong time, could mean another outbreak. And we might not be ready for that. That's why timing is so important. I want to take this opportunity to remind people of what we've been doing to get us this far. Wash your hands often. Wear a face mask if you absolutely must go outside. If you don't have to go outside, please stay at home. If you're outside, go into an essential business. Try to avoid crowding. Keep informed. Listen and comply to what your government has to say. Everybody experiences life a little bit differently, but there are a few moments like now where a common denominator is affecting every single one of us. So I encourage everyone to stay strong. We're doing great. We could do this. With that, you've reached the end of the video. If you have any comments, suggestions, or anything to say at all, write a comment down below. Stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching.